You're listening to Trek FM.
Welcome, everyone, to another edition of From There to Here, Trek FM's look at all 729 episodes of Star Trek, all the series, all the movies, including the animated series, for the 50th anniversary. I'm Nguyen, and with me is Brandon-Shea Mutala. How you doing, Brendan?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic, and I'm looking forward to talking about this, finishing up our block with two great episodes today, Will.
Second Skin and Abandon, and you could not be more right, Brendan. These are two terrific episodes, not only of Deep Space Nine, I would argue of Star Trek. They're just that good. And Second Skin is such a great premise. The premise is, what if Kira Nerys is actually a Cardassian? Dun, dun, dun. Is that actually possible? So the episode is the premise that she is abducted, and then she's revealed to be a Cardassian, that she was a double agent this entire time, sent in to pose as a Bajoran, and now they're extracting her. She's actually Eliana Gamor. She's actually the daughter of this high-ranking Legate Gamor, and now they're trying to debrief her, extract her, bring her back to the Obsidian Order. And Kira can't believe it, because Akira, in this episode, is the stand-in for the audience. And she's saying, I'm not a Cardassian. I'm a Bajoran. This is impossible. And the entire episode is based off of the idea of, is this possible, and can we kind of begin peeling back the layers of what's really going on here? But what I love about this episode is a good half of this episode, in my mind, maybe I'm thinking, is it really possible that she actually is a Cardassian, and she doesn't know that she is, and she believes her cover. Her cover works so well, she actually believes it. And I've seen this episode many times, and every time I watch it, even I sometimes believe, oh, maybe it actually is possible, despite knowing that, it actually isn't the case. I think that's what makes this episode so strong, is Nana Visitor is really terrific in selling her surprise and shock and disgust and all of those emotions wrapped up when reacting to this bombshell news.
Yeah, this episode is such a stupid concept. Like, when you hear the premise of this episode, like, Cardassians try and convince Kira she's actually a double agent. Like, how stupid is that? But it's so good. Like, this episode is way better than it should be based on what the idea is. But everything you've just said is exactly right. Nana Visitor is such a great actress in this episode. She has such a range of emotion, from sadness to anger to frustration, all over the place. And again, these Cardassians are such wonderfully written characters that just the manipulation and the wheels within wheels for these plans that they have are just crazy and so well written, and it's so believable. From what we've seen of the Cardassian culture so far, it's completely believable that they would do something like this, bring this person in to try and convince them that she's this guy's daughter because they think he's a spy for this underground movement. Wow. This episode is hands down one of my favorite episodes of Deep Space Nine. But again, it's got the Cardassians in it.
Exactly right. And remember that scene where she cracks the mirror? She just cracks the mirror because she's so frustrated. And you could see the moment in which she breaks down, and you can see she's beginning to accept it. She's beginning to accept the possibility that maybe it's true. Maybe she is a Cardassian. And then we realize, actually, that's actually not the case. It actually was quite an elaborate ruse. Again, wheels within wheels within wheels in terms of Cardassian manipulations to get to Kenny Gamor to actually reveal the fact that he's part of the underground, part of the dissident movement. It was all part of the plan, almost very Romulan in a way. And I love the fact that Garak here is kind of in the B plot here. Garak is utilized in such a great way.
Oh, yeah.
Right? The fact that he's starting to reveal the fact that we always knew he wasn't quite just a simple tailor, and now we begin to see, wait a minute, that not only is true, he's quite the connected Cardassian. He's quite the spy, right? The fact that he ordered the Obsidian Order ships to back off because of his codes, and then he plays it off.
Alpha Red Priority Mission Clearance Verification 9218 Black.
So Brendan had that written down, apparently, which is amazing. The fact that he wrote that down.
I love that. Andrew Robinson is my favorite character in Star Trek, hands down.
You know,
like
that's and you know what? That's a
him.
very defensible argument. That's a very you could actually make a very strong argument that this side character is the best one. But yeah, I love the fact that Garrick is integrated so well in this episode.
Yeah. Captain, I just have you know, if we have trouble, then I'm going to completely abandon you guys. And Sisko's like, that's the first statement you've said that I actually believe. And he's like, how perceptive of you, Commander. He's such a joy to watch. This Obsidian Order, this is really the first time we get a lot of the Obsidian Order. And they talk about it and what it is, and it's neat. You know, it's this cool concept that they're like the Tal Shiar, only crazier. You know, it's said that you can't eat anything without the Obsidian Order knowing what you had for breakfast, and what a wonderful episode! I just love it.
Right, and I think the ending is so powerful. The moment where to Kenny and Kira, obviously without her makeup on now, they share that really moment, and they really become, for all intents and purposes, father and daughter.
Yeah. And
this storyline is going to be picked up later on in another episode, DS9. We're going to finish off the storyline of Tekeni Gamor. Spoiler alert, he's going to come back, but it's done so well here because, you know, when Kira is introduced in this series, she is very anti-Cardassian, and yet through this entire experience, the silver lining is that she gains a Cardassian father. Who would have thought that was possible, right? But now she has this relationship, and it's so great in terms of that, the fleshing out of the underground movement, the dissidents, the Central Command versus Obsidian Order. It's done really, really well in terms of all of that world building.
You got it. Absolutely.
So our next episode is The Abandoned, which is another terrific episode that follows up a really great run of episodes so far. And The Abandoned is so strong because it's another element of world building, but this time from the Dominion's perspective, from the Jem'Hadar's perspective. Is you have this abandoned child that basically becomes a Jem'Hadar, and how are we supposed to react to that? And it's done. I love the interactions here between Odo and the rest of the crew, and how they're afraid of this Jem'Hadar child, but how Odo will stick up for him no matter what. It's really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like this episode a lot. The woman that sells the wreckage to Quark is the same woman that gave him the earring in the Homecoming.
Yeah, that's right. The purple-haired alien. That's right.
Yeah. Sisko is such a great dad. When he's holding that baby, and that we don't know it's a Jem'Hadar at the time, but he's holding that baby, and he's just going goo 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 goo, and he's remembering about when Jake was a baby, and he comes and he has this nostalgic feeling, and he wants to go and give Jake a hug, and Jake's like, leave me alone.
Yep, I love the fact that he's definitely going through what every father does. Is right. He realizes, wait a minute, my son's not so young anymore. My son is actually old enough to date a 20-year-old Dabo girl. He's actually not a boy anymore. He's becoming a man, and he's no longer someone I could just, hey, he's not my little boy anymore. And it's really great because that's one of the linchpins of this series is the Jake-Ben relationship. The father and son relationship is so strong here. And he's literally growing up as the series progresses. Jake Sisko literally is growing up, and you see his development on screen, and how does that affect his father? It works really well.
Yeah, you got it. But definitely the best part of this episode is definitely watching this Jem'Hadar and how much we learn about the Jem'Hadar as a species and a culture in this episode. Because this is the first time, since since the Jem'Hadar that we've seen anything. Like, they had those tubes in their neck before, but they never talked about them before. In this episode, we find out it's Ketracel White. I don't think they actually say it in this episode, but they find out that they need this drug and he can't eat food, right? And we find out that they're programmed to believe the founders are gods. They're basically programmed to be warriors, and we get a lot of character development and character building for the Jem'Hadar in this episode.
You really do, and it plays off of Odo's character development. So in previous episodes, we've seen Odo being a really good investigator, really good detective, really being a good outsider, the gruff security officer. But here, Odo's character is developed in the opposite direction. He's so much softer. He's so much more caring and nurturing. And it's really great because Rene Auberjonois is such a good actor. You believe all of it. You believe the fact that Odo is going to, always stick up for this child, despite all the red flags that are showing up. Super aggressive tendencies, doesn't respond to authority. You can already see how this episode's going to end. It's not going to end well. But until the very end, Odo is going to stick up for this kid, for this child, because he should, as we all should. And I think it has like echoes of I, Borg in it with Hugh, and kind of and Nechayev is referenced here. Nechayev was referenced as, we want to bring in this child for testing, and Sisko has to walk that fine line in terms of, you may want to, maybe for the benefit of the Federation, but it's also a sentient being. He deserves to live without being pried into with medical instruments and being a science experiment. So it works really well because Odo shows a different side to him.
Mm-hmm. One of the parts of this episode that I really like is I have to compare it to it. It's one of the parts that I really like about the Season 2 Next Generation episode, The Child, in that we've got this baby that's growing up at this rapid pace and is cognitive and learning how to speak and learning how to develop and communicate with people at this rapid rate. And it's such a creepy concept to see. It's portrayed very well in this episode as well, and I like it a lot. And so when I watch this episode, I do think about The Child a lot, because there is that similarity between the two with how this child is growing up very, very, very quickly.
Absolutely. And this is an episode that was directed by Avery Brooks, I believe, correct?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And I actually remember reading in the DS9 Companion, which, by the way, everyone should buy. It's a really great book, The Companion. But the Companion brings up the point that Avery was particularly attached to this episode because he felt it was a really powerful allegory for young black men in terms of nature and nurture, in terms of does nature or nurture lead to them leading towards lives that are not as productive or more violent? Is it because of conditions or circumstances? It was an allegory for black men or black or brown men being able to live in society and to be able to live in a society that respected them and be able to kind of overcome the conditions in which they were brought up in. And then that's an argument, that's a counter to the nature argument that's in their nature, that, this is something that can't be changed, that is part of who they are. In reality, it's part of the conditions in which you were raised and how you can overcome those things. And I think this was very prescient back in the time. That's why Avery Brooks said it was a very powerful allegory for young black men in poor neighborhoods. And this now obviously relevant now and with current events. So I think it was really interesting to see Avery making that comment in the Companion because, it was an allegory then, it's an allegory now.
Well, these are excellent, and this has been an excellent block. I don't have anything else I want to add to these two. Do you want to say anything else, Will?
No, like I said, these are just two fantastic episodes of Deep Space Nine and also of Star Trek. These are just fantastic episodes of Star Trek. So very, very lucky to cover these two episodes with you, Brendan.
You got it. And I'm so jealous of you because you get to talk tomorrow about another one of my favorite Deep Space Nine episodes. And you get to talk with Mike Schindler about civil defense.
Attention, Bajoran workers.
Oh, man. I wish I could talk about that one.
You can join us. It's okay.
It's a great one.
So, Brendan, tell our audience where they can find you on the internet.
You can find me here on the network hosting new episodes of Melodic Treks, which is all about the music of Star Trek. You can find me on Twitter at Brandon-Mutala, and you can find me every once in a while in the Babel Conference. Where can people find you, Will?
They can find me on Twitter at Boomer9er, and you can find me in the Babel Conference with Brendan, which is Trek FM's dedicated Facebook listeners group. So that does it for our episode of From There to Here, and we'll see you next time.
I'm so glad, because now I can go and gamble, because we're here live in Las Vegas right now. We're not recording this ahead of time at all, and I'm having so much fun at the convention right now. It's great.
I can't even keep a straight face.